music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here we go on with the show, the Hell Bro Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 34 of the Hear Me Out Bro Podcast. My name is Clark. I'd like to introduce my brother Eric.
Hey everybody.
As always, you can find our playlist by searching for @HMOBP on YouTube. You can find all of our playlists and episodes there. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at hearmeoutbropodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page called the HMOB, where we post episode updates and behind the scenes stuff and what have you. Ephemera. So you can follow
links,
us there.
Etc.
Links. Send you some links.
Some hot links.
Sounds good. So I hope everybody remembered to bring their paper bags to put over their head.
Paper bags?
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of the Gong show.
Yeah, like what is it, the comedian with no name, or
something like that.
What was his name?
Yeah.
His deal? The faceless comedian?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder who that really was.
I don't know. This isn't going to be a Gong show themed episode?
This is our Gong show, but this is not the Gong show.
Oh, okay. See, I had my expectations somewhere along the lines of Stairway to Stardom.
Oh, wait, what's that noise?
Oh, I hear that.
It's the mail truck.
It's the mail truck.
Mail truck!
You've got mail.
All right, let's see what's in the mailbag today. Well, we got an email from Jay Jarvis at craiglang.co.uk.
Another international listener.
Yeah. He says, "Greetings from across the pond. Perhaps you Yanks don't remember a short-lived situational comedy about recently divorced posh Tory gentleman Neville Strathchalk having to share a flat with his confirmed bachelor working-class mate Oliver Chesham. While the program only lasted a single series, the mismatched chums concept quickly became a standard television trope. Indeed, Chalk and Cheese predates the American remake of The Odd Couple by several years, and writers not only include several individuals who went on to write series 10 through 14, 23 through 38, and 56 of Doctor Who, as well as a young Douglas Adams. That's pretty cool. Jolly good job on the podcast, despite your strange fascination with Ireland. Cheers, Jack.
So there was a Chalk and Cheese.
Yeah. Apparently that was a theme song to a show.
Short-lived as it was.
Yeah. Well, I signed up for BritBox. That's one of the subscriptions that I kept.
Oh.
I'll have to see if Chalk and Cheese is on there.
Oh, maybe.
Although, hopefully they don't.
I wonder if a young Mitch Mitchell ever had any guest appearances on Chalk and Cheese.
Maybe. Yeah, I know a lot of times for copyright reasons, like sometimes imported British shows in America have different theme songs than the original. Like
so even though the show was called Chalk and Cheese, they probably didn't use
Chalk and Cheese
as the theme.
Well, at least in the States. We'll see. I'll look it up. I'll get back next week.
Yeah, I've been excited to do some deep diving. I mean, there's so many of those Bruton albums. There's so many. Like, I posted on the HMOB on our Facebook page a link to the KPM 1000. They have over 30,000 recordings on there.
Yeah.
And it's searchable and everything's downloadable as well.
Nice.
So they have full albums and you can search things by like kind of the topic, I guess, or the theme.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to look into, I thought about it and then didn't get around to it in researching last week's show, was do you remember the beginning of the Full Monty?
No, it's been a long time since I've seen that.
You just remember the end of the Full Monty?
I remember parts of the middle of the Full Monty.
It's got Hamish Macbeth in it. Come on. It's not to like.
It does?
Yeah. It's got Hamish Macbeth and King Robert Baratheon.
Oh.
It's like.
Yeah, I
fantastic.
saw that when it came out, but I haven't seen it since. So however long that is.
Right. I think it's about that long for me. But I had the soundtrack because the soundtrack is really cool.
Yeah.
But the beginning has it like starts with this like kind of newsreel-y footage of like Midlands like industry kind of like promo thing.
Uh-huh.
And it has like this total like KPM 1000 kind of music playing along. So I was going to research if that was one of their pieces or not.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so this week we're going to be...
I know what it is. Okay, because I'm also an historical nerd, so people would go through the streets of medieval towns and collect night soil, if you catch my meaning.
Right.
And use it for fertilizer, and they were called gong farmers.
Really?
Yeah. They'd have like a
interesting
hand cart, or like a wheelbarrow and a shovel. You'd scoop up poop.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So it's like sailing shanties. Is it like music by and for gong farmers?
There is a shanty related thing on here. But yeah, so today I'm covering Gong, the whole Gong discography and family tree. Like not in its entirety because it's pretty vast and there's many chapters and many rooms in this house. What
concerns me the most is you haven't called it a band at any point.
It is a band.
Okay.
It is a band.
Okay.
Yes. It's a band, but it's also a person, but it's also not necessarily this person.
Okay. I'm getting Church of the Cosmic Skull vibes. Is this like a multi-sensory experience? Like,
well, if you've ever wanted to get into Church of the Cosmic Skull, or if you've ever wanted to get into Sun Ra or Funkadelic or Frank Zappa,
okay,
but those bands just weren't weird enough for you. Then today, have we got the band for you?
All right. Check mark.
Okay.
Check mark in the plus column.
So the person that is more or less Gong is this character, David Allen.
Okay.
And not just David Allen. That's kind of a boring name. If you ever search for David Allen, it's spelled Daevid.
Okay.
So, yeah, David Allen was born in Australia, and he worked in a bookshop, and he got turned on to all the like beatnik stuff.
Okay.
From working in this bookshop, and then eventually he moved to England, and then he was one of the founding members of Soft Machine.
Okay.
Which is kind of like an early psychedelic proto weirdo band.
Right.
Like kind of like, you know how early Pink Floyd's like super weird and psychedelic. And,
there were costumes involved.
Yeah, like David Allen was part of that whole movement with like Soft Machine. You know, this is like mid 60s. So even kind of predating that, but he was very influenced in his guitar playing by early Pink Floyd kind of stuff, I think.
Okay.
So he plays guitar and he's also like a poet, but there's also this free jazz stuff of when he first got to England from like the early 60s, like 1963. There's the David Allen Trio. And it's just free jazz, like beat poet with guitar strangeness. So that's kind of his background. But then he got kicked out of England for some reason and ended up going to France. Or maybe he went to France first. Yeah, he went to France first, but then got kicked out of France. Wait, I don't know.
What?
He got kicked out of England and France at different times.
Wow.
No, he went to England first because that's where Soft Machine was from. And every time he like got close to getting famous or anything, he would just like vanish and like pop up somewhere else doing something like stranger and weirder to like get off the scent of success, I guess. So this first one is French era gong, where it's David Allen and his wife at the time. Forgive me for not looking up her name. It's like Gilligy or Gigi or something. But so this is from the first gong, something like that. So this is from the first Gong album, Magic Brother.
Okay.
And this is Fred Fish, Hope You Feel Okay. So pretty psychedelic.
Very psychedelic.
Pretty weird. I know it's not really your cup of tea, but so he stayed in France during this period, and there's also like a Canterbury scene relationship. A lot of the Canterbury scene musicians were kind of in and out of gong.
Okay.
And one of those and that album was from 1969. One of those drummers from the Canterbury scene was Pip Pyle. And so he joined gong on this next album, Camembert Electric.
Okay.
And so this next song is Tried So Hard, featuring Pip Pyle on drums.
What year was that from?
1971.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that gong is also a planet.
I saw that.
So this is Camembert Electric from the planet Gong.
Strong and streaming, mate.
Yeah, and you can see like the little alien dudes with the like dunce caps with propellers on them.
Mm-hmm.
This is like when gong is really kind of starting to like coalesce and come into their own.
All right.
And you got to hear a little bit of Gilli.
Yeah.
So it's Gilli. So Gilli, she was a London-born Sorbonne professor, Gilli Smith. So that was his wife at the time. And around this time, they moved into an abandoned 12-room hunting lodge called Pavillon du Hay near Voisines and Sens. And from this time until like early 1974, they would be based out of this like art collective hunting lodge.
Okay.
Out in the country, like south of Paris.
Sounds miserable.
Yeah, and around the same time, they also were one of the first bands signed to Virgin Records. So I don't know if this is how that guy made all his money. What's that? Executive of Virgin Records?
Branston or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he ever got rich off of gongs.
Maybe.
Music.
I mean, if they were making it in France, it would be under the like French radio regulations or whatever that
maybe
like a very high percentage of the music played on the radio has to be French bands. So there are like thousands and thousands of bands,
French bands that we've never even heard of. Really.
Exactly. Yeah.
But have a following.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could have been huge in France and we just don't know.
So, yeah, they really kind of started hitting their stride with these next three albums, which are considered to be the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy. And that includes...
yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
No.
Once they signed with Virgin Records. So the first one was 1973's Flying Teapot, and then 1973's Angel's Egg, and 1974's You album. And Virgin Records, when You came out, they decided to try and sell the album for the same price as like what a single would cost. So like whatever a 45 cost, you could buy the whole album for that. So they did that with the third album in the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy called You, Y-O-U. But if you sold an album that way, it was not eligible for the charts because it was a way to get people to buy more albums. But I still kind of think that more people didn't buy albums. And it was like, there was only a couple more albums on Virgin after that. So this next song is from the album Flying Teapot, and this is the song Flying Teapot. So
fart sound at the end was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good way to end a big 11-minute epic. So yeah, this would kind of like set the foundation of like high musicianship, a cool groove with just a bunch of like high weirdness pile onto it.
Yeah, like that bass line in the middle was like pretty funky.
Yeah.
You know, there was like all the like weird acid jazz freak out weirdness and stuff. But like,
yeah,
you know, growing up listening to The Residents, like that kind of stuff doesn't like really faze me. It's just kind of like,
okay, good.
Yeah, more of that.
Yeah,
more like,
weird.
Yeah,
cool.
More people that fried their brain on acid and like,
yeah,
but they're not into tie-dye.
Yeah, and like they had already established like the little cone-headed alien guys with the pinwheels, but this was the beginning of the whole teapot thing.
I think if you're outdoorsy and you do a bunch of acid, you like turn into like a deadhead. And if you're indoorsy and do a bunch of acid, you turn into like a gong residence, like
could be
dissonant,
but yeah, they're
little high pitched voices.
Yeah, they're very experimental, very strange, very influenced by Sun Ra and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this is when they started adding horns and things. The whole Flying Teapot thing, it's a philosophical allegory, Russell's Teapot by Bertrand Russell. And basically, it kind of explains the need for someone making a great claim that the burden of proof is on them.
Oh, yeah.
And people have used it to argue a bunch of different things, you know, from the existence of God to other things that, like, you know, if you make a claim, the burden of proof rests on you.
Right. It's the...
to prove that.
Was it Hitchens razor? Like
Occam's razor?
Well, Occam's razor is the
simplest
the hypothesis that requires the fewest number of new assumptions is usually the true one. But Hitchens razor is claims that can be made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Oh, okay. It's along those lines. And it has its flaws and it has its detractors, it has its adherents. But his claim was that, you know, I could just say that there's a teapot flying between the Earth and Mars.
Right.
And, you know, but it's so small that you can't see it with a telescope.
Right.
But, you know, if I made that claim, it would be up to me to prove it.
Right.
Not for you to believe it.
Yeah, it's like Flying Spaghetti Monster or the Invisible Dragon in Carl Sagan's garage from Demon Haunted World.
But so the thing with Planet Gong is that it's like, oh, well, of course there's little teapots out there flying around and they have men inside them.
Well, they would have to.
Yeah, it's just them like having that as part of their theme.
Nice. Plus it's very British.
Yeah. So even though they were in France at this time.
Well,
but via
Normandy.
Via Britain.
Yeah.
So a lot of different cast of characters were kind of coming and going at this time. The first one was Flying Teapot, 1973. The next album is Angel's Egg, 1973. And I think this is when Steve Hillage joined them on guitar.
Okay.
And also around this same time, Mike Howlett began playing bass for them. And his name will come up in a little bit. And also Steve Hillage's name will come up in a little bit. But this is from the second part of the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy. This is from Angel's Egg, and this is Eat That Phone Book Coda. So they had another drummer kind of join in around this time, Pierre Morlin.
Okay.
And also there was a short stint. He wasn't on any of the albums, but he played on some of the live stuff. Bill Bruford, one of my favorite drummers.
Mm-hmm.
Around the same time he was in Yes, and around the same time he was also playing with King Crimson. He also played with Gong for a short stint. So, like, you know, it's in that circle. So this next song is also from Angel's Egg, and it's the first chance we get to actually meet Gong.
Okay. I was hoping that's what the thumbnail.
Yeah, so this is I Never Glid Before, live on French TV.
Well, before we get into that,
Uh-huh.
I actually kind of liked that Eat the Phone Book
That last
coda.
song?
Yeah. Like it had just enough weirdness, but it was I don't know. There was something good about it.
Cool.
And I looked up Pigeon's Razor just to make sure I was correct. Yeah, almost word for word. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Yeah, it's a logical fallacy kind of rebuff. It's like, well, I don't even have to think about that. Why argue this?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If you
time saver.
If you don't have evidence, like, what are we talking about here? And then there's the Sagan standard, which is positive claims require positive evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I've always liked that one too. And then I have always been like, I kind of discovered this on my own, talking to one of my coworkers, who was like, not really a conspiracy theorist, but like she was a boomer and like skeptical of, like automatically rejected authority as having like malintent, which, you know, is a healthy attitude. She always had...
Well, it's a form of skepticism based on experience.
True. But she always had like kind of conspiracy theories about why postal management did certain things. And it was like...
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
Well, Occam's razor said it could be chalked up to incompetence, which is, yeah,
right,
typically what it is.
But it's like, is there like a secret cabal where they like sit around a table and come up with machinations and pull strings and levers, or do they just not know what the F they're doing?
Well, what's the one?
That's Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice, which can be adequately explained by stupidity, which is a handy razor for today's world.
Well, there's one where it's the latter, where in government work, or sometimes in corporations, often in corporations, that people climb the career ladder.
The Peter principle.
Yeah, till they reach the point where they're incompetent.
Yeah.
And can't climb any further. So basically everyone's at a level where they're like kind of out of their league or their capabilities.
Yeah, the Peter principle is a management theory that suggests employees in a hierarchy are promoted based on past performance, not their ability for the new role. This can lead to employees reaching a level where they are no longer competent, which can cause frustration and inefficiency.
Yeah. It's like if everybody took a step down a rung, like things would probably work a lot better in this world.
Huh.
Okay.
Well, what one more to bring us back, because you know we have plenty of meanderings and what's the off topic rabbit holes. And anyway, the most important thing is having a road back. And I wouldn't have set us on this side trip without having a road back. So there's Alder's razor, which is if something cannot be settled by experiment or observation, then it is not worthy of debate. And that's also known as Newton's flaming laser sword, which would be a dope name for an experimental band.
Nice.
In the genre of gong.
Some of my favorite dreams to have are those ones where you can like fly a little bit.
Oh yeah.
You know, where you're like flapping your wings like a la Icarus, but where you can like just kind of like glide a little bit.
Yeah.
And just like,
yeah, those are the ones that I've always had. Yeah. You're just kind of like,
you can run a little bit and then just kind of like, just like glide.
Yeah. Like you're kind of levitating, but not in like the kind of a magic carpet way, or like a super powerful magic user. Like,
yeah,
you're just kind of like lift off the ground and your feet kind of, you know.
Yeah, like a Last Airbender kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the best.
Oh, I love those dreams.
So, yeah, this next song is Gong, I Never Glid Before.
Nice.
So that was my introduction to Gong.
Okay.
Like I had heard some of their music, but then when I was like, I'm trying to remember, maybe it was on one of the prog podcasts that I listened to, I think played a Gong song. So then I went to go check them out, and that was like the first thing that came up, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm down for Gong.
Yeah.
And that's David Allen there, of course, as the band leader.
Pretty cool. Should we have our sister knit us hats like that?
I'd be down for it. But like, I mean, back then that would have been a pretty fun band to play in.
Totally.
Just to be like totally goofing off and have like goofy high concept stuff and like play with high musicianship, like all those little like syncopated things that they do with like the lyrics and stuff. It's it's not random weirdness.
Yeah, you were talking about beat poetry in the introduction, and like that like is like singing along or kind of rapping along with the beat, like total beat poetry kind of thing. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's hard to do, and it sounds cool when it's done right.
And Steve Hillage is a great guitar player, and he's also like a weird UFO-centric kind of dude. And like around the same time that he was playing
like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So around the same time, he put out this album, Fish Rising, like his first solo album, Steve Hillage.
Okay.
And this is related to I Never Glid Before. This is Afterglid. And this is a bonus track, which is the Power Trio backing version of Afterglid. Cue drug montage.
Right. Yeah, that was actually pretty interesting. Like that acoustic part, like 5 minutes in, was kind of pretty. And then that part about 10 minutes in, or 9 or 10 minutes in, where like the bass and drum got super heavy. It was like Maggot Brain era Funkadelic. That was really
like
cool.
Steve Hillage, like, I mean, I love like that heavy psychedelic guitar stuff.
Yeah.
So I could just like, you know, it's like, I don't know, plugs directly into my brain. There's like no interface needed or anything.
Yeah, it's like when the guitar gets a little too spacey and there's nothing to like weigh it down, that's where like proggy stuff like loses me. But if it's like, if it has that heavy bass and drum and it's kind of,
if it's more stonery than like
exactly
fart smeller.
Or like in your Mylar spacesuit, your farts are being recycled.
So Gong, like, because they're so intersectional, they're psychedelic, they're prog, they're space rock, they're avant-garde, they're funky, they're poetry. They're like, I don't know, it's just like a little bit of everything is like baked in.
Right.
They're jazz fusion-y. And like once their musicianship really started ramping up, like with the whole Gong collective thing,
right,
then they started becoming like even more fusion-y for a period, especially once Pierre Morlin joined in on drums. So this is the last of the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy, the album U, and this song is called Master Builder. That song rips. It's high weirdness.
Very high weirdness.
But it rips. I love all the keyboard layers and like the circular rhythmic stuff. You know, repeating patterns, but they like all overlap and build on each other. And like as a total muso, like stuff like that, just it's like, man, that's killer. I know it's not for everybody, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's a little too out there for me, but
it's out there. But I mean, listening to the drumming on that, it's total fire.
Right.
The bass line. So around this time, like we're starting to get too good. So like David Allen and Gilly were like, we're out of here. So like some of these songs are on here just for the sake of completeness. But as David Allen left, like everybody kind of looked to Steve Hillage to be like the band leader.
Okay.
And a role he was not all that comfortable in, especially since he had like his own solo project and stuff already anyways.
Right.
And so Steve Hillage went and started working on this other project, which prog-wise, like to me, this is like one of the best prog albums ever. And it also has some other Gong alumni on there, including Dave Stewart, the prog organ player, not the guitar player producer for the Eurythmics, but the other Dave Stewart from the
not the Dave Stewart who's involved in one of the coolest rock and roll stories ever.
Yeah, Dave Stewart is super cool, but this is the other Dave Stewart.
Got it.
So I love this album for the name, for the album cover, for the songs that are on it. This is Con Space Shanty. Is there enough fiddly bits in there for you?
There were a lot of fiddly bits in there for sure. But yeah, that artwork, it totally is giving like early Warhammer 40,000 like Games Workshop vibes.
Oh man.
Like I don't know if you can, does this show up on the shared screen?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I wonder who the artist was that did that.
Oh, they had a ton of artists.
Some UK artist.
Yeah.
No, I mean the album cover.
Yeah, I don't know. We could probably look it up. But yeah, they had a ton of artwork that was all kind of like that, with like the bold colored logos and then like kind of monochromatic artwork that was kind of semi-abstract, like weird. I don't know.
I mean, it looks cool. It's just
cool.
Right out of some guy's imagination.
Right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was like a lot of shanties are like work songs. Like they're meant to be sung along with to like keep rhythm. Like if you're rowing or like heaving and rallying on like a capstan, like a big winch, like bringing up the anchor or whatever. Like they're to like have a crew of people like syncing up to like work together.
And keep your mind occupied while you're just doing like menial tasks.
Right. So what kind of work do you think that song was?
I don't know, mining asteroids or just being a space pirate.
Okay, cool.
Hauling cargo off an abandoned ship, fighting off zombie passengers,
remembering
the
to
previous crew.
maintain quarantine protocols.
Uh-huh. Oh, man.
Yeah. Not going to be in that movie.
Yeah, I love the opening of that song, though, where with the part where he's singing, you know?
Mhm.
Starstruck moon man, you're so blind. Just, I don't know. That whole album's like pretty proggy.
Yeah, that's the kind of proggy I can get behind, though.
Yeah, it's just so like sci-fi or something.
Uh-huh.
So by this time, Gong, like after David Allen parted ways, for a while it was called Pierre Moreland's Gong, and they got just really fusiony. So this next song is on here just for the sake of completeness, and also because the title is Cat in Clark's Shoes.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that's why I included it. But they also added a lot more percussion and also a xylophone player.
Okay.
So this is like Frank Zappa meets Weather Report. And since David Allen left, they have like no more singing.
Oh, weird.
So yeah, this album's from 1975. This is Gong Shamal. You know, there's so many like little like off ramps of the whole Gong story
Uh-huh.
that I wanted completeness, because some people might be like, oh, that stuff's too weird for me. But then like, oh, whoa, that's some killer fusion. It's like,
Right.
you know, it's like, what off ramp are you going to take in the Gong, you know, the Gong space travel?
What reverberation of Gong is going to hit you?
Yeah, is going to resonate with you.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is Pierre Moreland's Gong, Shamal, Cat in Clark's Shoes. It has like the musical drive of like British adeptness mixed with like the French silliness and like strangeness.
Yeah. Yeah, when you said like they added more percussion, I was like, okay, that's cool. And then when you said xylophone, my heart sank a little bit. But it's like, there's nothing wrong with the xylophones, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They are what they are. And what they are is, I don't know.
Well, I like this music because it's like, it's so varied, like from the early stuff to the later stuff. It's got enough of a groove that it can just be background music.
Uh-huh.
But then there's enough going on that like every once in a while you can like engage with it.
Right.
And like, you know, if you feel like engaging with it, you can like pick up like where they are and like listen to the layers and the little idiosyncrasies going on, or you can just like zoom out. You know, it's like this music can be listened to at a bunch of different levels.
Right.
I was thinking while we were listening to that if you could like find a little kitten or something and take a picture of it in one of your shoes, if we put that up on our Facebook page, it might get a lot of likes.
No. I had one story about that, and then you talking about an actual kitten in a shoe gave me another story, another tangent. That's the word we were looking for earlier.
Tangent, yes.
Yeah, so
I would prefer to say that we take the scenic route.
There you go. Tangent has so many connotations, so much baggage. You want to travel light on the scenic route. You don't want a lot of baggage. So I've had cats before. I've lived in houses with cats, and I always made sure to keep the litter boxes clean because I'd heard horror stories about people finding poops in their shoes.
Oh no.
So that's what I thought of when I saw that song title. I was like, man. It's not like a cat wearing my shoes, like a Puss in Boots kind of thing. It was like,
yeah.
Oh, the cat got in my shoes.
Cat's in my shoes.
And then unrelated story, but similar theme or similar topic. There was a catalog, and I forget what it was called, but it was like a total like
cat a log.
Yeah.
Speaking of catalogs,
Yeah. Jeez. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eric Ross.
Sorry.
So back in the day when, like, this goes to show it was like well after like Amazon and like online ordering and stuff, but it was a catalog that I had to deliver. So you can understand that its target demographic were less internet inclined individuals. And you've probably seen like the kind of like rural living catalogs, but like not like, 50 homesteader kind of catalogs, but like the like, like your like bears and moose on everything. Like, oh, is your house bear themed
little
or
geese
moose
figurines
themed?
and stuff?
Yeah,
or goose. Yeah,
like there are those kind of catalogs, but this was kind of like right in this Venn diagram of like the goose people and moose people and old people, and just the kind of people that would have like a poster of like a little kid wearing like a tiny child, a toddler wearing Western gear, like in black and
or
white,
like the two kids in overalls on the fence.
Yes,
like speaking farmer talk.
Yeah, like
yeah,
framed in like the guest bathroom.
Nice.
So like that kind of catalog. And so like the more risque end, if you could even call it that, would be like a woman taking a bath in like an outdoor tub, but like, all you can see are her like bare shoulders, just be like a landscape and kind of in the foreground, like a prairie landscape with mountains in the background, and then like, an outdoor bathtub and like a woman's bare shoulders and hair, like the back of her head, like that kind of stuff. But it's all kind of like, I don't know, either a photograph or like not really Bob Ross painting, but like that kind of painting, like a little more wispy. So like that's the kind of genre of catalog that I'm talking about. And so one of the many prints for sale that you could purchase from this catalog was a kitten in a cowboy boot, like out on the like front porch of some hunting lodge or ranch house. It's like this little kitten in this like well-worn cowboy boot that like probably smelled pretty gross.
Oh man.
And it was just like, that's so gross. Like, kittens are cute, but it's like, it's like a boot that doesn't come in the house. Like, it can't be very, I don't know, pleasant smelling. And so my coworker and I like just thought it was just like the cornballest thing we'd ever seen.
Oh man.
And so like it became one of our catchphrases, where it was just like, hey, how's your day going? Or like, hey, how's it going? Like the response would be kitten in the boot.
Nice. Kitten in a boot. Nice.
So, yeah.
One time I put one of my cowboy boots on and something bit me, like bit my toes.
Ugh, nope.
Yeah. So I yanked the boot off and shook it upside down, and out came a potato bug.
Nope.
Yeah. Not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maximum heebage-jeebage.
That could be like the most like cosmic dope smoker doomiest heaviest riffage song off of, what was it, Newton's Flaming Laser Swords first album, is Jerusalem Cricket.
Oh man, yeah.
Dude, we should do that. We should form that band.
In Coffee and Donuts, we had a super heavy song.
I remember this song.
Our second heaviest song besides Heavy Metal Smokeout was Potato Bug.
Yep.
And then David had a potato bug dance that he would do that went with it. And one time we were playing in San Francisco, and when he was doing his potato bug dance, the seat of his pants ripped out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so Shamal was the last album to feature Steve Hillage on guitar.
Okay.
And it continued as Pierre Moreland phase of Gong. This next album, they added another guitar player, a gentleman by the name of Alan Holdsworth.
Okay.
Who was Eddie Van Halen's favorite guitar player.
Whoa.
And speaking of amazing guitar players, do you remember Steve Vai's Flexible album?
Oh, yeah.
So this is Alan Holdsworth in Pierre Moreland's phase of Gong from the album Gazeuse. And the song is called Night Illusion. But listen to this guitar riff and tell me, then like even some of the riffage that was in that Con Space Shanty, like you'd hear Steve Vai do stuff like that from Steve Hillage. But listen to this Alan Holdsworth guitar riff in the song Night Illusion. Pretty out there. Like,
yeah,
Alan Holdsworth is a perfect fit for this era of Gong, because if there was ever a guitar player from a different planet, it's definitely Alan Holdsworth.
Fair.
Yeah. So, as we've heard from like the Radio Gnome Invisible trilogy stuff forward, the bass player's been this guy, Mike Howlett. Great bass player. Like all those strong grooves are that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And not much was happening. Like, well, they had a concert, a Gong concert somewhere in France where David Allen returned. And it was sort of like this whole like festival where like all the little Gong side projects were playing. And one of the side projects that Mike Howlett had that played at this concert was his project Strontium 90. And Strontium 90 is an interesting little footnote to add to this playlist. And this album was later released. Well, I'll give the title after we hear the song. But so this is Strontium 90, Visions of the Night. See if any of this stuff sounds familiar at all.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So as soon as the song like really kicked in, it was like, wait, I've heard this song before. At first I was like, yeah, this totally sounds like somebody. Like, who does it? Doesn't really sound like.
Kind of sounds like Aerosmith, but then the singing isn't Steven Tyler, but it's more upbeat than Aerosmith, and it's kind of punky.
Yeah. I was just like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Police song. And then I looked at the screen and it was like Stuart Copeland, Andy Sting. Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this was re-released. It was either released or re-released as an album called Police Academy, because Strontium 90 is where Sting and Stuart Copeland first met Andy Summers, and Mike Howlett was the bass player.
Right.
And it was his band. It was Mike Howlett's Strontium 90, and the other musicians were Sting, Stuart Copeland, and Andy Summers. But, you know, Sting's an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, why do we need this? I mean, Mike Howlett's a great bass player, but do we really need him?
Sad.
So, yeah. So this is basically like where the Police were born out of. So the Police have a Gong tie-in.
That's so crazy. Yeah, I used to have their box set, like the complete collection on CD, and then I like ripped it to my iPod or like my iTunes library. So yeah, there were days when it was just like I'd get out, like leave the office and just like put on the Police, listen to the Police.
All Police all day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, what a cool band.
Yeah. So that was in 77. And then in 1978, they came out with the album Espresso 2. I don't know. I don't get it. And then they have a picture of a gong on the front of the album with the word gong on the gong.
Hat on a hat.
Yeah. And this song is called Three Blind Mice. This was the last album that was on Virgin Records. So they got cut from Virgin Records after this.
Okay.
So this is Pierre Moreland era gong, Espresso 2, the song Three Blind Mice. Are xylophones your banjo?
They're not quite that bad, but pretty close.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, that's kind of the end of the era for the fusion-y stuff.
Okay.
So all during the 80s, they put out a bunch of live albums. They put out re-releases of the earlier 70s stuff, like the Teacup kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that was kind of about it. There's a few other albums in there, here and there. But in 1992, David's back.
Whoa.
And they came out with this album in 1992 called Shapeshifters. And this song is called White Doves. Yeah, I like that song. It's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's nice to have David back in the band. Speaking of cats, like having a really talented, musically talented band without a strong band leader is kind of like hurting cats.
Right.
And it's like you can play like the craziest fusion stuff, but like unless you have somebody to like really direct the band and like be a front man or like, you know, like nail down a concept or like have a direction. I don't know. It can be musically interesting to listen to, but I like stuff that has like a thread through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And it was totally different. You know, it's like different than anything we've heard thus far on the list. Okay, this next one is more strangeness. And like, I don't know. I've been in situations where like I kind of felt like this a little bit. And it's not like the best feeling, but like, I don't know. I guess it's part of being like hypersensitive or something, or like hyper aware or something. I don't know. But anyways, so this is from the album that came out in 2000, and it's 0 to Infinity.
Whoa.
And the song is Bodylinguis.
Or is it Botalingus?
Botalingus. I think it's Botalinguis. You'll soon know why. So, yeah, if you don't think your body speaks to you, you're just not old enough yet. And like last week we were like talking about our old man cred and stuff with all our aches and pains and whatnot. I don't know. That song's pretty hilarious.
Well,
pretty silly.
Speaking of old men, the cover art for that album is an homage to, I mean, they have it in the like Eric Von Donigan, like Chariots of the Gods, Ancient Astronauts thing, but it's the cover of the tomb for Kinich Janab Pakal, or Pakal the Great, Mayan ruler.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very well suited to the whole gong aesthetic.
Yeah. See, it's like representing him ascending the tree of life. But like,
interesting.
Eric Von Donigan was like, oh no, he's like reclined in a
space capsule.
Yeah. And this is like, you know, exhaust coming off the rocket ship. And like, look, he's like reclined just like an Apollo astronaut, except he's got he's barefoot, has like one leg up. He's like doing crunches, and he's clearly dead.
No, man.
So, circling back to our extraordinary claims can be require extraordinary evidence.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this next one is also with David, and this is from the album 2032. These next two songs are from that album, and we get another video coming up soon. Nice. But this song, I think this song's interesting. It's Escape Control Delete.
Pretty groovy.
Yeah, pretty groovy. I like that song. There's a bunch of cool sounds in there. And that little pictograph on the cover of that one. It's pretty cool. There's like a little resident eyeball with a top hat kind of thing on the top.
Totally going to say residents. The same thing.
Yeah. But yeah, just like the melody in there and the tempo and the like, yeah, it's just it's driving, but it's like kind of ethereal at the same time. It's like a really cool combination. Okay, we got one more song from the same album, 2032. This one's a little more hip-hop influenced, and the video for this one is totally nuts. It's animation, but it totally gives into the whole gong vibe and returns to the whole flying teapot theme. So this is the song How to Stay Alive. And I love this one too. So cool. Oh, man. So rad.
That was
just
awesome.
So crazy. The animation on that is just nuts.
It's so cool.
Oh.
This space whale flying teapot.
Oh, man.
Musically, it was giving hippopotamus rhinoceros vibes.
Yeah, it just, oh man, it delivers on so many levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. So, yeah, unfortunately, like these last couple numbers, like had to do a lot with mortality and stuff and like some of the album covers and stuff. But David Allen returned to Planet Gong full time in 2015. So like Gong's still going, but okay. and still influenced on the same kind of vibe. But yeah, kind of the creative genius behind it all is like not there anymore.
Okay.
He passed away in 2015. And so this last song to close out the playlist is from 2023's Unending Ascending. And this song is called My Guitar is a Spaceship.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, there's enough of the family gong still around to like kind of carry on the gong name and do cool projects. But there was some other side projects in there throughout the era. Like David had a project called New York Gong, which was around 1980, and it was quote unquote punk / new wave.
Huh.
And I didn't include it on here because I don't know, it's not my vibe. It's pretty crappy, actually. Bunch of New York musicians with him doing his poetry and stuff, but it was kind of like peak new wavy kind of stuff. And I don't know, if you're into that kind of stuff, you might like it. Then he had Planet Gong, and he had a couple other things. He did some solo albums and stuff here and there in there too. And then there's a bunch of offshoots, but I don't know. I tried to like keep all the cats in one barrel.
In one boot.
In one boot. Yeah, I tried to keep all the cats in one boot. So I don't know. That's pretty much Gong. That's like the high points, the stuff that I like, and I don't know. What like for me, like Frank Zappa, like I don't know, too much of his music's about like sex, or like it's a little too zany, or it's like zany for zany's sake.
Right.
And like a lot of the people that talk about what a genius Frank Zappa is, and he is, but it's a little too like cork smeller too, you know?
Right.
I don't know. It's a little too like Critics' Choice or something.
Right.
But like Gong is like varied enough and weird enough that it like stays kind of relevant and interesting. And yeah, and they have plenty of weird stuff too. Like, I know you think Gong's for you, like there's a lot of challenging stuff out there to like listen to. As challenging as this list might have been for some listeners.
Right.
Like there's even more challenging stuff out there, like all the weird, like orgasmic chant stuff that Gigli was involved with, and songs like I'm Your Pussy or stuff like that. Like, yeah, with all the meowing and stuff.
Right.
Not everybody's pot of tea, as it were. I don't know. But for me, there's like plenty of stuff to love in the Gong canon.
Cool.
What did you think about them as a first-time listener?
I'm trying to remember if you played Space Shanty for me, or whether you just told me about it before.
I think I've just talked about like the album a lot, because we're always talking about shanties and space rock and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I knew it might be a little too proggy to like tell you have to listen to this whole album.
Fair.
And a lot of that Khan's space shanty stuff was material that was like left aside as part of Steve Hillage's first solo album.
Right.
And he had some other like more, he had an album called Green, which is kind of more UFO space based and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, it seems like it'd be really fun to go see Gong, because it'd be like a 4-hour version of Burning Man without all the like dust and heat and like .comers or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So it's such a like intersection of weirdos.
Right.
It seems like you can approach them from any angle and find something to like.
Fair. Yeah, I liked it when they got like heavier.
Yeah.
The more you can sound like funkadelic, the better.
There's definitely some funkadelic type vibes in there too, and some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I don't know, they're all, maybe it's the drugs they were taking or something, but it seems like all those type of people get on the same wavelength about things.
Right.
Like just being creative and poetic and crazy and
right,
rocking out. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that Steve Hillage song, like that was interesting. It was.
Yeah,
it was
I like
cool.
that version because it's all stripped down.
Mm-hmm.
And like the stuff on the album, they got a little too like studio tech on it and like added too many layers and stuff. It's still good. It's still like listenable if that's your thing. But it's not, I don't know, it's not as like heavy and stonery as like just a trio playing that stuff.
True. Yeah, I thought it was cool. It was interesting.
Yeah. And I like the Alan Holdsworth stuff even. You know, I listen to fusion stuff now and then. And I've been tempted at times to go down like a Alan Holdsworth rabbit hole and like try and figure out the musical concepts he was working from, or like understand his language a little bit. But I'm always afraid that it's going to be like this slippery slope into like a beautiful mind kind of situation. So like I just stay with like the ham-fisted pentatonic stoner rock guitar playing.
Oh man.
Which Steve Hillage kind of leaned more into.
Stay in the kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun listen. It wasn't too like proggy for prog's sake. It was like there was always a message behind stuff, even if it was like pretty
or a concept
kooky. Yeah, there was a concept.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like some like new agey kind of elements in there, but it's all like deep thinking stuff, and like the root of all that stuff is to like live a good life and like get along with other people.
Right. And
like enjoy the beauty of the planet and stuff like that, and not try not to screw it up.
Right.
Like even people that are all out there new agey, it's like I can relate to them more than I can like just really like Gnostic, like business minded capitalist people or something.
For sure.
You know, so I mean, I don't know. I can relate to most people, but some people get tiresome.
Yeah.
And new age people get tiresome too, but I don't know. All this stuff in the Gong camp is like, yeah, there's enough of it.
Well,
it's pretty cool.
that first video from
or where we get to meet the band.
French TV, 1973. It's like, yeah, David Allen kind of looks that way. But he's got the big nose and the kind of like pointy chin.
He probably didn't even need drugs, but like once the drugs came along, just like they were like drugs are like take most people out of their element, but some people it actually grounds them.
Right.
Yeah, he's like seems like one of those individuals where the drugs would actually like help him be more grounded into himself.
Right. Yeah. For some people, like drugs are the hot frying pan to their egg.
Right.
And for some people, drugs are like the key to the lock inside their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just use them responsibly, kids.
Yeah, there's a bit of a Pandora's box to Gong. You know, open at your own risk.
Right. Yeah. Overall, I thought it was pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that.
It's interesting, if nothing else, and entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's a fun playlist. You know, I tried not to put anything too challenging on here. It's a good introduction.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, that was Gong. That's our Gong playlist. That's our Gong show.
Back to that.
Join us next week where we'll go in search of...
Oh, yeah. We're in the month of April now.
It's Eric's birthday coming up. And so we're going to, like we did for my birthday, we're going to have a playlist of what Eric was listening to when he was in high school. But then Eric graduated in the 80s, not the early 90s. And so
1985.
Yeah.
Smack dab in the middle.
The music that was popular in 1985 was a lot cooler than the music in 1992. So
some of it.
Are you still going to do like a list of...
I might add a couple like hit songs from that year. You know how we covered the top songs. There might be a few that make the playlist.
Okay.
Because there was some good music. But then as you did, I'll just kind of include like the whole concept of it is kind of like what I was listening to instead.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I look forward to that. You have a gong. Could you record? What do you call the act of playing a gong?
Gonging?
Yeah. Could you record you gong?
Yeah, we'll close out with a gong hit.
Okay.
With that, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. And let me get a gong. Close out our gong show.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Here we go, live on air, a gonging.
Checking out music with my bro. Will it dig it? Yes or no? Here we go on with the show. The Hell Bro Podcast.
How many gongs are there? Well, let's count them. There's gong. There's like central gong. There's like the mythological classic gong, the original gong, which has been going all the way through. And in a way, that's in the middle of a big circle. And then around that, there's all these other bands. Okay, so there's Mother Gong, there's Planet Gong, there's Gong Maison, there's New York Gong, there's Pierre Merlin's Gong. Let's see, what else is there? Any other gongs? Yeah, it's been 32 years, so it's hard to remember. There's the University of Errors, there's the Invisible Opera Company of Tibet, what else is this? The Magic Brothers. I think I've probably forgotten enough to make it reasonable. But, that's it. How many gongs were there? 6, 7? What really hit me was when I was 7, I saw a bunch of Irish Australian gypsies hit town at 7 o'clock in the evening in a sort of cloud of dust, leapt out of this old van and started playing the most fantastic music I've ever heard. And there was a family of like 16, and even the 3 and the 4-year-olds were doing little things. And I thought, that's what I want to do, no doubt about it. And I had a little plastic ukulele, which was from Woolworths, which is about the only thing I could get at that time, and I made it work. The most celebrated part, it seems, is the glissando playing, which was originally used with a gynecological surgical instrument, the handle of. And it seemed to me to be a much more worthy use, to bring it into play upon the guitar than to actually disengorge the most delightful and velvety parts of the feminine anatomy, which, of course, we all celebrate and enjoy. So saving this particular instrument from that dread destiny was a fantastic thing to do. The way that the Grateful Dead was able to run concerts without putting any posters up, without, just simply by the fact that they had their followers. Gong, I really appreciate that that's what they did, although I loathe the Grateful Dead music. I can't stand it. I hate country rock. But I really, really admire what they've done management-wise and organisationally-wise. And certainly the web has helped us to literally be able to put on concerts without advertising. This is an enormous advantage because the Gong audience is very, very widespread. It takes a small percentage from a lot of different types of people. A lot of art people, art student type people are into it. At the same time, you've got the anoraks are well into it as well. There's from every walk of life, housewives, car salesmen, you name it, they're all over there, but there's only a sort of a smallish number from each. So in order to have that reach, the only thing that has that reach indiscriminately and right across the board, of course, is the internet.